Just going to give it another quick moment for folks to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. We will be going for about half an hour today, and then we'll have time for questions afterwards if anybody wants to stay and ask questions, but we will pause a couple times throughout the presentation for questions too. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started and make sure we have time to cover all of our info and get everyone out of here on time. So thanks again for joining us for our return session of Ask Staffing. My name is Jamie and I'm an HR coordinator with MACC. Most of my time in this role is spent in staffing to help bring new employees on board to our member organizations. And joining me today is my colleague Bree Paulson, who is also an HR coordinator in the staffing team with me. And we're really excited to work alongside you as we collaborate in strengthening the staffing processes for your organizations. So today we are going to focus on going over the job postings part of the staffing process, and that is one of the first steps in the path to hiring a new team member.
Hey, Jamie, before you go, sorry to share your screen.
Oh, thank you. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, no
That
problem.
would be helpful, wouldn't it? One of the most important parts of presenting. Okay. And can you nod if you can see my screen now? Thank you. All right. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that we are recording today's session so that we can share the recording out afterwards. And we will share some resources that we'll go over today as well. And we will capture the chat in case there's anything we need to follow up on later. So a quick overview of today's agenda. We'll do a quick review of the staffing path and each of the steps included in it. And then we'll continue with diving deeply into the job posting process with a couple of demonstrations to show you the main points of it. And then before we finish up, we'll provide some information around the turnaround times for completion of a few of our staffing processes. And then we'll close out the session with time for questions and further discussion. So a really helpful tool in the staffing process is the Hiring Manager Guidebook. This is a fantastic resource that can be used to learn how the staffing process works for you and your organization in collaboration with MACC. So it describes the staffing process from start to finish with a lot of visuals, explanations of MACC's responsibilities versus organization responsibilities, and tips for best practices. It is a long document, but the table of contents is set up really nicely with links that take you right to what you're looking for. So I always recommend to use it as a quick guide for each step along the way. So if you're needing a refresher on how to do something in UKG, you can open up pages 31 to 34 and look through how to post and approve an offer letter or how to create an offer letter. And even if you do already have the guidebook, we'll share it again after today, and you can always find it on Connector too, so that you'll have it right on hand. And then I do want to spend just a few minutes going over those main points of that staffing path. So as you can see in our nice little flow chart here, our basic staffing path from start to finish can be broken down into 3 parts. There is the pre-posting phase, the application collection and interviewing phase, and then making a hire and getting them onboarded. And while there are many steps included in each of those 3 main parts, today we're going to focus on the pre-posting phase. So in the pre-posting phase, one of the first steps is when you identify the need, of course. And in identifying the need, a great step, an important step is creating a job description. And your HR partner can help you figure out how to develop a new position and incorporate it into your structure. They'll help you land on the right title, they'll offer wage analysis, and help you craft that job description that is clear and exciting and appropriate with inclusive language. They'll also have to create a new job code for you in UKG for the role. So we should always discuss new roles with your HR partner before the next steps just to make sure we have everything set up for it. And another scenario where you would lean on your HR partner during this pre-posting phase is updating your existing job descriptions. Doing this in collaboration with your partner is important from several standpoints. For one, you want to make sure that your branding and language is consistent across all of your job descriptions, and having a new perspective on them and revisiting them periodically can help identify gaps. A best practice is to present a job description to a current employee at their annual review to make sure it still aligns with what they are doing, and so that they always know what is expected of them. And I will bring up an idea point here, which is that the language used in both a job description and flyer should be entirely intentional. You don't want to take for granted that a lot of words and phrases carry a lot of meaning and can be seen from differing perspectives. You want to avoid using gendered language and consider using alternatives for words that may have subtle connotations or associations with a certain gender. Examples of this can be aggressive, competitive, culture fit, caring, or nurturing. And then we also recommend avoiding using a really long list of specific required skills and responsibilities. This could lead you to overlook a candidate that may have non-traditional skills but would be an excellent fit for the position, and it may lead candidates to not apply for the position if they don't believe they're a great fit. And then even certain concepts can be perceived in unfortunate ways. One thing that happens a lot is when you want to describe your ideal candidate, which can be great because it gives a way for an applicant to connect with you and picture themselves in the role. But when we say things like we're looking for someone who fits with our work culture, what does that really mean? It's pretty vague and can be taken a lot of different ways. And someone who actually has all of those qualifications you're looking for might decide not to apply if they're worried you're looking for someone to fit in more than looking for someone who can do the job well. And it's especially a problem if they perceive you're going to hire based on if they are or are not a member of a protected class. So a better way to word this would be to say you're looking for someone who adds to the culture of the organization. Once you have your job description and are ready to post your role, you'll start with Connector, where you can submit the job posting form. And after you submit the job posting form there in Connector, it will be sent to our staffing team here, and we'll put your information into a job flyer. The job flyer is created from a template that already has any legally required details, as well as a brief introduction to your organization and the benefits the job will offer, and so on. And a lot of the information you do put on the job posting form can come directly from the job description, but there is a difference between the two. The job description tells and the job posting sells, as we like to say. It's a nice way to remember the main difference between the two. So the job description is a full listing of every responsibility with details included, while your job posting doesn't need to have every single detail of the job. If the job posting is too long and wordy, it might repel candidates who think they won't qualify or simply don't want to read that far into a job posting. And your posting should also be crafted to attract candidates so that you'll want to highlight the parts of the position most pertinent to the role and its purpose. The details like attending all staff meetings that are often included with every new job aren't necessarily pertinent to the role itself. So the job description will probably include a level of detail that we don't necessarily need on the posting, while the posting offers more context, such as how do the duties and functions fit into the organization, and what is the importance of this role, and why would someone want to do it? Will it be an in-person, hybrid, or remote role? Will you accept hires outside of Minnesota? So the flyer and posting are advertisements, and it's just good to consider that difference when filling out your job posting form. And speaking of that job posting form, I do want to go over that with you as it is an important part in this process, and not everyone has done so before. So the job posting form is located out on Connector, and as you probably know, if you've been out to Connector before, you'll see your organization's logo up here, and then you'll see a lot of the same information here. And the job posting form is located in the HR part of the navigation menu. So if you drop that down and then come to manager support and drop that menu down, you'll find the staffing, hiring, and onboarding link. Oh, yep, and I need to refresh because it'll sign you out if you don't refresh it. And then as soon as Connector decides to load, I'm not sure if it's my internet that's slow with it. But anyway, after you click the staffing, hiring, and onboarding link, then you can see on the right-hand side under resources, they've been repopulated for this page. And the job posting form is right here in the second line. And then the first line is that hiring manager guidebook we talked about before. So you can always find it right there at the top. So in the job posting form, first you'll put in a little bit of information, basic information like the name of your company, of course, your name, your email. I'm not gonna perfectly type it all out here, but, and then of course a phone number we can reach you at. And that will help us, so if we ever have questions about it, we can get in touch with you. And then you'll have some more basic information like the start date, which we always request to be 10 days out from the current date. So it might be the 26th. And as a reminder, we always ask that start dates coincide with new hire orientation, which is on Mondays at 9 a.m. So usually you're looking at about the Monday following 10 days after after the current day. So maybe the 26th if we're looking to make a hire we're offering to today. And then we'll enter the job title, of course. Where the job will be located is important if your company has more than one location. If not, of course, you can write HQB or whatever your company name is, as it only has one location. And we do have all of the addresses. We just need to know which one it is if you have two locations. If you have more than one opening for this position, that's important to indicate here so that we don't close the posting after we've made the first hire, and we'll keep it open and keep posting it to make another hire. And then, of course, how many hours the position will work. There's also a spot to include a schedule for this position if there will be one. You can mark yes, and then share the schedule below. And then it asks you how long you'd like the posting to remain open. And there's three options. There's the 6 weeks option. So if you think that 6 weeks is plenty of time to make that hire, you can choose that one. Open until filled is as it sounds. We'll continue leaving it open until it is filled, and we will refresh the postings every 30 days in UKG and on the external job boards, just to make sure it's kept fresh and never looks too outdated. And then there is the other option. If you have a certain time frame you need your job posted or it needs to come down at a certain date, you can specify that here, and we'll make sure to take it down at that point. And then we come into the job details page, and this is where your job description can feed a lot of this information. But again, we want to highlight the difference between the job posting and the job description. While these areas match your job description, you don't need all of that level of detail. And you want to advertise your job without all of the extra info so that applicants can read through it somewhat quickly. So here you'll craft a job summary from your job description that gives a basic, brief description of the role and how it fits into your organization. And then, of course, you can list out all of the job responsibilities you feel are most important to include on the posting that really describe the role and what it'll be doing, again, how it fits into the organization and why it's important. And then, of course, your desired qualifications, which we also recommend considering carefully so that you're not repelling or deterring any candidates from applying because there's a long list of qualifications they believe they need to match every one of in order to apply. I think it's better to have a shorter list and be able to talk through those or review those applicants that come in that you might not look at it as a perfect match right away, but turn out to be a great candidate. So then you'll follow that up with any supplemental screening questions you'd like to add. If there's anything you'd like to add about skills or qualifications, or if where they live, you can add that here if it hasn't been captured in the posting already. And then any additional information that you'd like the applicants to know about the position can be included here, and we'll try and craft it into a nice paragraph on the actual posting itself. And things like workplace culture, flexible scheduling, anything that is outside of the norm or wasn't captured in our job posting form here already can be included here. Okay, and then there are some more additional job details here, like who the supervisor will be, of course. And then anyone who will be time card approvers should be listed after that, which of course will include the supervisor, but if there's any additional folks you think need to be on the time card or are usually on time cards for your role, they should be added here. And then below that, it will ask if this is a new or existing position, which can be helpful if ever there are questions about the role or if there's information we need to look up, we can look back at the last time it was posted or the last person who was in that role. And you can mark right here who the last person was in that role if it is an existing position. And then below that, you will let us know whether the position will be a supervisor, and that lets us know how to set them up in UKG so that they have access to supervisor areas like time card approvals and those types of things. And if they will be a supervisor, you'll want to list out who will report to that person so that we can set that up in UKG as well. Following that, there is the important information of the wage, and the posting form does require a minimum and a maximum wage here because it is very important to put a salary range on your posting. Applicants appreciate that transparency a lot, and saves a lot of time in your interview process later on when if you have a candidate who doesn't match with those salary requirements. I'm sure we've been through that before if you've done hiring, that once you get to the application or the interview stage and find out it's not a fit, you've wasted a good amount of time. But applicants really appreciate being able to see that and know if it fits within their budget before they apply. And after that, we have the eligible for any reimbursements or stipends question, which is pretty straightforward, but we give a couple examples just to help brainstorm if there is anything within your company that this role will qualify for, like a cell phone reimbursement, home internet stipend, travel reimbursements, those kinds of things. And those can be listed out directly below that, of course. And then following that, you can select whether the employee will be regular, temporary, or on call, which is pretty self-explanatory. Usually the job description will inform this, but if you're ever unsure, you can reach out to your HR partner and they can help you decide whether it'll be regular, which is like your full-time and part-time folks, or if it might be a different category, if it won't be a permanent rule. And of course, you can then select whether it is part-time or full-time, and then select the exemption status, which your HR partner in helping you craft the job description would have helped you determine that. But if you just happen to not have a job description yet, you can mark unsure, and your HR partner will be able to help decide that. And then following that, we have our EEO category, which if you can look through the list and find one that matches your category, if you're unsure, then you can give it your best guess as it is a required question. And then the staffing team and your HR partner will review that as we're going through the posting just to make sure that it does fit with your role. And then following that, we have the driving question, which is an important part of the job posting form. And for that reason is why we have two questions about it, about whether it's an essential function of the position and if there's any potential for driving. Because if there is any potential that this person will drive for work, they do need to have a motor vehicle screening report done or screening done in order to make sure that their driving privileges are okay for them to drive at work. And that can include even if they're just driving for occasional events or, one-time errands, those kinds of things still need to make sure that they have had that motor vehicle record screening. And if your organization is a member of the nonprofit insurance trust, then we will uh, or run that screening on your behalf. It's part of our onboarding process. And if your organization is not a member of NIT, then we will tell you that it is your responsibility to run that MVR screening if they will drive. And you have to make sure and select some kind of answer for everything that is required, of course, or it won't let you move further. And then we have the cost center information. So if you're unsure about what this is, you can reach out to us. It does categorize the role and the labor worked into different areas, like if they might be in HR administration and then HR consultation for parts of their role, it can divide the labor into those areas for budgeting purposes. If you know your cost center, you'll input it here and the allocation. And this is required, so we do need at least one home cost center for every role. And then there are more areas to input further cost centers if it will be divided up into more. And then it does go into COVID operating procedures, which not a lot of our organizations have at the moment, but if you do have a policy or any masking or exposure protocols, they can be listed out here. And then it does go over whether the position is fully in-person, hybrid, or remote, and if that status is dependent on anything like vaccination status, for example. And that we know is important to include in our roles. We always like to try and highlight that somewhere in each posting because we know the prevalence of remote work ever since COVID and that folks definitely are looking for that or want to know whether it is before they're applying. And then we have reached the the end of the long job posting form. And there is one more spot for you to put any additional information that wasn't already captured in the form. And then once you submit the job posting form, it will be sent to the staffing team. And we will craft, along with your HR partner, we will craft the posting into a job flyer that will be posted on your job board. So the job flyer looks very similar to this. This is a MACC job or MACC role. So you'll see your organization's logo up here, of course. But otherwise, it is very much the same. You'll see there is a QR code in the upper right-hand corner for when we are posting this or printing it in by hand manually. Then folks can use their phone and scan that QR code that goes directly to the job board so they can apply from their phone right then and there if they want. And there's also a link farther down on the posting for if you're sending it out electronically, if you're emailing it out, folks can use that link to go directly to the job board. Once we have posted it, or once we have made that flyer, we'll then post it in UKG and then submit it to you for approval. And this is a system of checks and balances to make sure everything is accurate before candidates begin to apply. So you'll get an email from UKG whenever you've been assigned to approve something. And MACC staffing generally does not monitor approvals, although we do keep an eye on them. If we see one sitting out there too long, we'll reach out. But we do recommend that when you're setting up those approvals and the approvers, you keep in mind who is in the office and make sure that they're able to approve and even send them a note saying they have something waiting for them in UKG. So I know it's the HR team that lives in UKG and not everyone goes in there often enough to see when they've been assigned something. And when you do go into UKG, you have to open up the recruiting gateway to approve something, but then it's pretty, I don't know, it's a pretty good flag signal of where the pending approval is as soon as you sign into the recruiting gateway. So as soon as you open up the recruiting gateway, you'll see this page, and under pending approvals, this little My Approvals with the red number next to it will show right away. You don't have to drop it down or anything. So it's a nice little flag to grab your attention. And then you can click on My Approvals and view the posting, review all the different parts of it. And then at the end of it, you can click Approve to send it to us, or approve it and send it to the staffing team for posting. And you can also click Reject if there are any changes needed, and that'll just send it straight back to staffing as is, so that we can just make the edits and then send it back to you for final approval. Okay, I know I've gone over a lot right now, and I just want to pause real quick for questions. I know some folks might have a 2 o'clock meeting and need to be hopping off in a couple minutes, so if we have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so then this is how your job board will look with the list of current openings. And each organization does have their own job board with their logo in UKG. So that logo in the upper left-hand corner will show your organization, and it has a link to your organization's website, so folks can check out your website and get to know you a little bit better if they haven't already. And there will also be that short description you see here under the title of each posting. And we pulled that from the job flyer. It's usually from the Who We Are paragraph at the very top, or the Why You'll Love Working Here, whichever fits best in that area. And you'll see that this listing also has the title, the category of the role, the schedule, and the date it was posted. And we go through and refresh these postings in UKG as well as on the external sites every 30 days just to make sure that it never looks outdated. And this is how your posting will look on the UKG job board. You can see a lot of the same information that was on the previous page with the title, category, schedule. This also includes the location of your company. And then the posting itself looks very much like the job flyer we provide to you when we're finished posting the role that we email out every time. And the only difference is that on the job flyer, there's that link to the job board for when you're sending it electronically, and then the QR code in the upper right-hand corner for when you're posting it publicly in a coffee shop or bulletin board or handing it out to folks. And then once the posting is approved by your approvers in UKG, then we go and post it on the 5 external job boards and post the position with a link back to UKG for people to apply so that we can filter all the applications back to UKG. So these are the 5, or pictured here are the 5 external job boards that we do use. And most of these are fairly well known, or some of these I should say. There's Indeed, which we all know is very often used. MCN is a nonprofit job board that is used frequently by folks looking for nonprofit work. And then there's also Pollen, which is a mixed media arts nonprofit, and Handshake, which is used nationally by education institutions. And Handshake sends every posting to hundreds of schools that we can advertise to many students and graduates. And then there's also MN Works, which is the state's job board used by folks who are accessing services at the Minnesota Workforce Centers, or anyone who wants to create an account there. We have, or Minnesota Works has had a federal compliance update recently that requires a very complicated posting process. So for those organizations that require it for their contracts or for whatever compliance purposes, we are still posting on Minnesota Works. But for those that are not required to post there, we are replacing it with a more user-friendly and another diverse job board that will make sure we reach a wide audience for your postings. And keep in mind that we are refreshing these postings every 30 days. And if your posting has been posted for a while and you haven't received any applicants, your MACC HR team can help with that. We would love to help generate ideas to help update your posting if applicable. And then we can also give you options for other places to post the role. So there are some job boards that apply to only certain types of roles that might be helpful for yours that we can talk through. And there are options to boost your posting on some of the external sites that we already use, like Minnesota Council of Nonprofits and Indeed. And to boost a posting means that you pay the site a fee to highlight the role more prominently by sending it out in email blasts and or putting it at the forefront of search results on that particular site, and a few other things they'll do to really try and generate applications for that posting. And we're always open to new ideas as well. So if you've heard of a job board you'd like to try for your role that we haven't mentioned, please let us know. We're always willing to talk through more options and think of new places to post. Okay, and then we're almost wrapping up here, folks. I'm so sorry that we're going a little bit over today. Feel free to stay on if you have the time, and we just have a little bit more to go through. And if not, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. We'll send out a lot of resources to make sure you can catch anything you might have missed. So after this job posting phase, or after we have it posted, we're then in the application and interview phase of the staffing process. In general, MACC does not participate in monitoring applications or tracking interviews, but there are some best practices that we'd like to call out for this phase of recruiting. It is a job seekers market right now, so you do want to give your applicants every reason to want to work for you. And you are making first impressions on candidates at this stage. And one thing that says you're a great employer is response time. So we do recommend checking your applications and dispositioning them or changing the status of them at least daily due to the especially tight labor market. Every applicant gets an automatic confirmation email as soon as they apply, but definitely keep your top candidates engaged beyond that initial touch point. I'll leave it at that for now, as we do have another session of Ask Staffing that goes farther into these areas. But also know that the Hiring Manager Guidebook has other recommendations you can look into for this area. Okay, so we have covered a lot today. So just a quick summary of the big picture. The Hiring Manager Guidebook is your all-inclusive resource for the staffing process, and you can use it as a nice little training or a reference guide for every different part of the staffing process if you need any help. And then the staffing path is comprised of the pre-posting phase when you can rely on your HR partner's expertise as well as the staffing team's help. And then the application and interview phase when you're actively recruiting. And then the hiring and onboarding process when MACC Staffing takes your new hire from the offer letter to orientation on their first day. And the job postings part of this whole process includes the crafting of the job description, submitting the job posting form, and then the final part of that process is advertising the posting and networking to find the right candidate. And then just a quick review of our timelines for Ask Staffing. Whenever you do submit a job posting form, please allow 48 hours for us to post the job for your review in UKG. Of course, we're always trying to do as soon as possible, but if ever there's a time when we've received many in one day or something of the sort, it just might have to take a little longer. And then after all approvals for offer letters have been completed in UKG, so after you've created one and it's been approved, please allow staffing 24 hours to finalize and send that out. And then keep in mind for the timing of onboarding and the start date, there's a lot of timing aspects of onboarding, like waiting for the background results before we move forward with the rest of it. That makes it important to have that 10 days for onboarding. So just ensure whenever you have a candidate starting that you're calculating that and giving enough time for onboarding between the offer date and their start date. Alrighty. So that is all of the information we have time to go over today, minus 4 minutes. And appreciate you being here, of course, very much so. And we'll send out this recording. We will post this recording on Connector if ever you want to access it again or send it to anyone, like a new hiring manager. And then we will have these Ask Staffing sessions every third Wednesday of the month. And then we also have staffing office hours. If ever you have a question or want to go over a posting that's not generating applications, if you have a new hiring manager in your organization and you'd like us to train them on some parts or all parts of this process, that's what office hours are for. anything and everything related to staffing, please let us know, and we're more than happy to meet with you. Those are held every Thursday afternoon from 1 to 3 p.m. So you can always book one of those by clicking the link in the signature of staffing emails. Thank you again for being here. Do you have any questions before you sign off, Vicki?